there, it's Sandee Sgarlata. Get ready to dive deep into incredible stories of people who've taken life's challenges and turned them into a roadmap to happiness. On this show, we're not just talking about overcoming obstacles. We're uncovering the real, gritty secrets to living a life filled with peace, joy, and genuine happiness. This is Happiness Solved. So let's get started, because happiness is a choice, and the choice is yours. Hello, Carina. So exciting to see you here. And we were just chatting before I started the recording, and we used to be neighbors and didn't even know it. How awesome is that?
That's right. It's kind of like, wow. But here we are.
Here we are. You're on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. And but we certainly share being in the same area for so many years. So that's always fun. I
Awesome.
love talking to people that, where I am here, because I just love where I live in this part of the world outside of Washington, D.C. So for the audience, Carina Marshall is a vibrational transformation coach, passionate about serving others on the deepest level through vibrational living. I'm just going to leave it at that, because you've got so many amazing things. Check out the bio in the show notes, everybody. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about, because everything is vibrational, right? Whether it's, my coffee cup I'm holding up, but especially us as beings. So before we dive into that, I'd love to hear your backstory and how you got to this place where you are today.
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to thank you, Sandy, for having me in your show. It's really an honor, and I'm very, very appreciative. My journey towards an awareness of vibrational living started, I guess, if I could look at my life in terms of decades. In my 20s, I was just going along thinking there's a secret in life that I need to know, so I would know how to act my part. In my 30s, same thing. 40s, of course, children, marriage, and all the activities that go with it. I still wasn't that much aware, but in my 50s, when my 50s kicked in, it's like, who am I? Like, what is this all about? And why is this happening? And stuff like that. People go through those questions quite often. I've really realized through a really traumatic part of my life to question all my beliefs, to question who I am, and to question how I'm operating my operating system in life. And I discovered through some channeled messages of like Abraham and the Council that are excellently translated or channeled by Esther Hicks and Sandra Landon, and it resonated deeply in me that we are vibrational beings. And coming from a science background as well, at first I was I was doubtful. However, when you look at quantum physics, the theory of entanglement, Albert Einstein, about everything being energy, it made sense. And that energy's smallest unit is like a vibration as far as our human minds, our left brain can understand. Then I realized that our thoughts, our emotions, and our feelings are truly vibrational in nature. And we do have a vibration that we're emitting.
Yeah. So for those that don't fully understand vibrational frequency, can you just dive into that a little bit deeper, and explain it like you're talking to a child, like about how we are vibrational beings?
Yes, that's a really great question, because it's all starts from there. Our thoughts, or we're thinking like maybe hundreds of thoughts per minute. Our thoughts carry vibration and they carry energy. Our feelings and our emotions also carry vibration. In fact, even stronger than our thoughts, because our feelings are already like a manifestation of how we interpret our thoughts. And then our beliefs, the way we were brought up by our parents, by our schooling, by our environment, our beliefs, whether we know it or not, some are silent beliefs we're not aware of. I would call that our vibrational programming. And together, those thoughts, ideas, and beliefs create what I call in my book vibrational manner. And that vibrational manner has a frequency. And like,
did you say matter?
manner,
Matter with a T?
manner, like a manner.
A vibrational manner. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a label I use just to communicate, but anybody can use another word or term for it. And in that vibrational manner that we carry through our thoughts, our emotions, and beliefs, that equates to a frequency, and frequencies attract each other. So there's a magnetism there. And before you know it, if you're always thinking negatively or otherwise, things are happening in your life that are like equivalent to that frequency, whether it's in the same context or not. So, the best way to understand, for instance, how your vibrational matter is going on is what's showing up in your reality.
Right. Because like attracts like, right? And the universe, God, Buddha, let's just say universe, but it's all the same life force energy, right? So if you believe in God, use
Yes,
God. If you believe in Buddha, use Buddha, and so forth. But when you're talking about that life force energy, it doesn't understand, right? Or it doesn't recognize the difference between negative and positive, right? Everything is just more of a neutral, right? So if you're emitting and you're feeling joy and love and peace,
mhm.
you're going to bring more of that into your life, right?
That's right. That's
But if
right.
you're feeling shame, guilt, worry, all of those negative things, you're going to bring that back into your life. And can you dive into that a little bit more?
Great question, Sandy, because exactly, I mean, everything, whether we like it or not, is neutral. It's the individual meaning that we put into a circumstance, to an event, or to an experience. It's the meaning that we give to those external stimuli that creates the reality of what we are experiencing. So you're right on the mark, on the dot there.
Well, that's one of the things that I have been working on. And I've been doing this for over 35 years, as you have as well, probably even longer. Maybe I don't know how long you've been on your journey, but that's been one of the biggest lessons that I've learned because over the years, I learned you know, how to switch our frequency and raise your vibrational frequency when, by doing things like breath work and practicing gratitude, all of those things that can quickly raise your vibrational frequency. And it wasn't until I started diving into the quantum that that now it's like, and it's a practice, right? I have to practice
Absolutely.
this. It's not, trust me, I have to remind myself all the time about this. But practicing looking at situations with neutrality, right? Where you stop, you pause, and you look at it. And at that moment, because we're triggered, right? We're
Mhm.
triggered. And at that moment, you can stop and look and be like, okay, I have a choice now. I can either let this trigger
That's right. Yes.
take me down the rabbit hole of
Mhm.
frustration, or in my case, limiting beliefs, all of those, all that stinking thinking that
Wanting to
comes up.
control.
Right. And instead just look at it with neutrality, like, okay, I don't have to I
Mhm.
don't have to respond. So I'm still working on this. Are there any, it's a practice for me. What types of golden nuggets and tips that you can
Mhm.
share with the audience that they can apply and start practicing in their life today so that they're able to work on looking at situations from a place of neutrality?
Well, the answer to that question, which is also a very valuable question, is that the real purpose, I think, of life, at least in my experience, is self realization. And by self realization, I mean that a discovery or an awareness that there's always two of each one of us. And by that, I mean there is a personal consciousness part of me, which is through my five senses. And there's also an equally very important non physical part of me, which is the invisible part of my connection to infinite intelligence, to God, to source, or to the universe, whatever label means, more neutral for you. And that connection, this expanded consciousness, some people might call it the inner being or the higher self. Probably the label soul is more relatable to a lot of people. And the soul is connected to source or infinite intelligence. And that is the portion of our whole being that I think is a foundation for really understanding and practicing vibrational living. And because if we realize who we really are,
Right.
then we can look at any situation, event, or personality talk about relationships,
Right.
and try to look at it from the eyes of source, from the eyes of the soul. Now, that's a big step, right? Because we always have this separate kind of saying that, oh, they're the holy ones, and I'm just here. I'm just a human being. No, we have the ability to tune into that expanded consciousness of ours and be able to start practicing how we can look at things in a more neutral way and possibly infuse the energy of compassion, the energy of love, or what have you.
So it's a practice. It's a practice for everyone. What are some of the things that you do when maybe you're experience something that may trigger something, right? We're always going to be triggered when we live, especially in the world that we live in. What are some of the things that you do to help you to raise your frequency and not let that trigger affect you?
I have shared about 16 metaphysical tools in my book, and one of the things I really practice a lot is the sending of silent love, or maybe I could rephrase that by saying shining the light on a situation. I used to be in corporate America, the corporate world, and
Same here.
okay. And as a project manager, I used to manage a lot of technical people and admin people and all that. And in a meeting, for instance, sometimes the agenda is triggering a number of people to start going on a very negative momentum. And when that happens, I would try to envision that, there is a light that's shining on these people. I even sometimes imagine that some cold water is being splashed on them. They'll wake up, and somehow through those visualizations, metaphysically, I'm trying to engage also in their non-physical selves so we can try to work together. And somehow, in my experience, it seems to work.
Very cool. Can you dive into a little bit more about visualization tools and how they can really shape our reality and increase not only your performance, but it can also increase, the peace and the happiness in your life by
Yes,
using visualizations?
great question, Sandy. Visualization is one of the most powerful tools you can ever practice, in my opinion. When you are visualizing something, you are summoning that energy to through the consciousness field, and that's another topic, and to engage itself into an outcome. And not only does it offer you a sense of relaxation, like you're daydreaming, for instance, but it also allows you to engage on possibilities. So when you visualize something, I would call it sometimes daydreaming, it is actually experiencing what is yet to come. I remember when I was younger, my mom would say, hey, stop daydreaming, go do your thing and go do your errands and this and that. But I realize now that daydreaming actually was very helpful because it helped transport my energy, my vibrational energy, to a place where it was really wonderful and relaxing. It was like limitless. You can imagine anything. I have a friend, the other week I was having lunch with her, and she was having a personal problem with her relationship. And I said, well, do you know how to visualize an outcome that you might like to happen in your situation? And she said, I really don't know how to visualize. So I asked her, do you watch movies? Yeah, I watch them all the time. Well, do you recall certain sceneries there? Sure. Well, just imagine you're recalling that movie, and then you're inserting yourself and your version of it. So you become the director of that stage rather than the actor in the stage. And she got it. She said, okay, I'll give it a try.
Well, that's such a great analogy because we are directors of our own life.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right. It's just us, we have the power, we have the choice
Yes.
as to how we are going to react, how we are going to show up.
Yes.
Right. And
Yes.
recognizing that when things happen, good, bad, indifferent, neutral, anytime things happen, it's happening for you and not to you.
To
Right?
us, right? Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
a way for us to really put on our expanded consciousness and look at it vibrationally from through the eyes of our higher selves, through the eyes of our souls. And it's the meaning we put in to the situation or the problem or the issue that creates the reality. So we always have that choice at every moment.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Sandy.
And the thing is it's so simple. It's just not always easy to do.
It takes practice because we
Yeah.
have all been programmed ever since we were born how we're supposed to operate in our world, right? So we have
Yeah.
this old operating system, but we're at the cusp of the world now where we are really transitioning as a collective into the next level of consciousness. So might as well start practicing so we don't get left behind.
Yeah, exactly. And folks, I'm holding up my cell phone. I have an iPhone, and you know how any whether you're, iPhone or Android, they're always going to be pushing you to upgrade the phone, right?
That's right.
You always, it does down, you have to up, it updates
That's
regularly,
right.
right? So, and we care about that, right?
Yes.
I am making a point here, folks. So you've got your phone. You always, make sure you've got the latest updates. You take care of it. You
Hmm.
make sure that those updates are being made. You put a nice case on it. You keep it clean. You're always making sure it's charged, right? Got to keep that plugged in. We're charging it.
Hmm. That's
And
that's
yet,
a really great analogy because,
and
like,
yet, what are we doing for ourselves and our
yeah,
consciousness and our minds, right? I
definitely.
love that you said we have to upgrade our operating system. Your operating system is your brain, it's your thoughts.
Mhm.
And if we're not upgrading it, if we're not paying attention to it, if we're not charging it, if we're not fueling it, if we're not, all of those things, you are going to be left behind, right?
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
when some of us, when we upgrade to a new operating system, sometimes there's some kinks there, and that's okay. Just give it time to normalize itself, and it becomes the new operating system where it's really efficient. You feel better. You know how to create in a more conscious way. It's a promise that things really will be very different, and you really create your reality the way you would like it to be.
Yeah. So here's the thing, because what I find is that, and this is just for me personally, and I'm, highly self-aware, have to have a purpose. Okay. If I don't have a purpose and something to work toward, I am not a happy camper. Right. I've got to have that purpose and that passion.
Yes.
And by having that purpose and something that I'm highly passionate about, it's almost like by default, I want to be a better person. I want to make strides because I want to fuel that purpose. What can you, or any sort of advice or suggestions or personal experience that you've had that can help people to find that purpose so that they can really, because I feel like if you don't have a purpose in life, how do I say this?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if you're just living, you're
Yes.
just a human doing. You're just doing.
Yes. You're just kind
But
of
when you
kicking
have a
around.
purpose, yeah, when you have a purpose, you become a human being and you learn
Mhm,
to just
mhm.
be. Do you have any tips or tricks or advice for somebody to figure out what that purpose is?
Yes, well, I don't know if it's a trick, but you know, purpose I think is truly, truly very clarifying, and clarity is one of the values in life that really helps us in feel like we are quote unquote in control, that we are powerful, and that we are here for not only to bang around, if I can use that word, and really purpose. I think the overall purpose of humans is self-realization, because unless we realize who we really are, what I mentioned about our personal consciousness and our expanded consciousness, unless we realize that, we can hear all the things that life coaches like are, but it won't click. It's just the left brain taking it. But it has to be experiential. And so the understanding that the purpose of life is self-realization, understanding that you are much more than your physical self, and there is a non-physical part of you that's operating at the same time, simultaneously, at every moment. That gives the perspective for vibrational living. Now, your individual purpose, or the individual purpose of each person, is what means the most to each one of us. And some of us don't even know exactly what is my individual purpose. others. But in any part of the day, the week, or the month, or the year, we feel we desire something. So, in that desire, one can formulate an intention. I want to be able to blank, okay? And the intention would be put in a sentence. And from that intention, especially when you write those intentions and then you repeat it daily, regularly, whatever, you are actually summoning that energy, that vibrational energy, to align with your purpose and intention. And that's very powerful.
It is. And to circle back what we were talking about before, when you're in that vibrational frequency, that's when the magic starts to happen, because you begin to,
That's right.
it just starts coming back to you tenfold.
It's magic. It's like you realize,
It really is.
hey, I create magic.
Yeah. And like things just show up, like
That's right.
Steve Jobs says, you don't connect the dots looking forward, you connect them looking backward. And when I look back on so many things that I've accomplished and the people and the connections and the network that I've built, and I'm like, how did this happen?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Like that. It's just incredible. And sometimes things just show up and you're like, wow, never saw that coming. And it's amazing. Wasn't even going after that. And things just show up in your life. And it's really incredible.
That it is incredible. And so many examples out there. And I'm excited for your listeners to try it out and just, see what happens, because there will be so many sweet surprises that you'll be amazed, like, oh, I created that.
Yeah. And it's all about, really coming from a place of, or when you are triggered, because, and I use that word just simply because it's something that everybody understands, but we're always being triggered every day, right? Even just driving to the grocery store, somebody cuts you off in traffic, that's a trigger. And you're like, ah. And then that's when we have we need to focus on the choice and how we react once that happens. And, it's a very simple process, but it's not always easy. And I just encourage everybody to start making that a priority, just like you prioritize your phone.
Mm-hmm. I would
These
also
steps, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, by practicing it, it just becomes easier and easier every single day. Just like, anything you're working on, improving yourself on. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. It's like building a muscle when you're working,
Right.
like you have to practice it. And I was just going to say that when you mentioned that example about somebody cutting you in when you're driving, I remember as a kid, well, not necessarily a kid, at 12 years old, I was in boarding school, and my dad used to pick me up on weekends to go home. And when somebody cuts in front of him, he gets so mad he would race and try to overtake him. As a kid, I was like, "Oh, okay, this is what you do." I thought that was
Right.
what you do. Until in my 40s, it took a while. In my 40s, when somebody does that to me, and in LA, a lot of people can do that. It's like everybody's in a rush. I realized I don't want to get entangled in that energy.
Right.
When you look at vibrational living, you can be very conscious vibrationally. Am I going to entangle with that kind of energy or not? And then you realize you know how to set your boundaries, and you start feeling better. You start knowing that, hey, I'm choosing love or compassion, or just distracting my mind on focusing on somewhere else that helps me feel better. Like, I'm not going to entangle with that negative energy.
I love that you use the word entangle, and it just got me thinking that so often people say, "Oh, how you doing?" "Yeah, I'm doing good, but this happened and that happened," and you're complaining. And I used to say to my husband, he's like, "Look at you complaining," and I'm like, "I'm not complaining, I'm just explaining." And right, and that was the story that I lived with, and it's only been a few years when I realized, like, when we're complaining, what we're doing is we're stepping into that victim mentality.
Absolutely. And when we're
And I got out of that decades ago, right? So I thought, right?
Good
So
for
I
you.
thought. But even those little things like, this happened and that happened and that happened, that's a victim mindset. And I
Yeah,
realized that, and I was like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be like that anymore.
exactly. And when you were with a group of friends,
Yeah.
Girlfriends in particular.
In
I love
particular,
my girlfriends.
oh, love my girlfriends, but boy, can you go down a rabbit hole very quickly.
And the momentum just builds up. Oh yeah, you should remember when I did this and did that. It's like all of a sudden everybody feels bad about the world, and it's like, oh, the world is going down to the dumps.
Right. Right.
So
Well,
yeah,
and it kind of is, but we have a choice. We have a choice as to how we're going to perceive it, and you can perceive it as what it is, and you can say, okay, it's that's how it is, and I'm not going to let that what's going on out there affect my mentality because I have a choice. I can control that. And I don't have to, I can choose not to let it affect my mindset.
that's right. And Sandy, can you imagine if each one of us was making a choice not to entangle with negative news? I wonder if we would really achieve and allow world peace.
Well, it
It's like,
sounds great on the surface. And, when you look back at the history of humans, human beings, they talk about racism and this and that. Well, let me tell you, human beings are they're the racist creatures, and they've been like that for hundreds of thousands of years. When you look back at the tribes, what were they doing? They saw that tribe over there. They didn't like them. They were different. And so they tried to kill them, right? We have been fighting against each other for hundreds, tens of thousands of years. Humans have been fighting each other. Okay. It's part of our DNA. We don't like what's different. I'm not saying that's whatever, but you know what I'm saying? So, so that's kind of, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but that's the thing about humanity. Having said all of that, you still have a choice as to how you're going to perceive that, right? Because we know more now, whereas the tribes were killing each other, right? Tens of thousands of years ago, right? To try to get this. That was because that was fight or flight. It was survival. We're now beyond that. We're not fighting our neighbors for survival. We're not fighting the tribe down the street for survival. So we can make that conscious choice that we don't have to live like that. And yes, people can be different, and I can make a choice that it's not going to affect me in any way, shape, or form, because it's okay. And we can work together and we can love one another because we're all branches of the same tree.
yes, that beautiful. We are all branches of the same tree, and we all have a choice at every moment. I
Right.
also want to add that I understand how the momentum of the past and all the human atrocities that have been committed can carry such a weight in the present moment.
Exactly.
However, in the present moment, we can also envision, and this is where visualization can really play a powerful metaphysical tool. We're in the age of consciousness now, in my belief, and by focusing on what we want to create rather than what has happened in the past, I think we have a real opportunity here to really move our consciousness forward to a level where there will be more harmony than we ever realized.
That's right.
So, this consciousness that we're talking about to make conscious actions about whether to entangle on negative news or not, and how we process that information, how it affects our actions, will play a really important role in our evolution. And each one of us truly plays a very important role, believe it or not. You can only read books about quantum physics and entanglements and null locality. I mean, the scientific stuff, if your left brain needs that. But we are in an age of ascending consciousness, and we need that to jump into the bandwagon of a new operating system
That's right.
and have a better celebration of life, no matter
Yeah.
what's going on.
And I just know from firsthand experience and being on this planet for over 5 decades, going on 6 decades, by making those conscious choices,
Yes.
life just is so much better because
Yes. So much
you're
better.
not getting this day back, folks. Not getting this day back. This is it. And it's your
Mm.
choice. The choice is yours. Yeah. Karina, this has been such an amazing conversation. Is there anything else that you want to throw out to the audience before we wrap up that you didn't get a chance to say?
I just wanted to let your audience know if they want to know more about some metaphysical tools that can help them with their vibrational manner. I have a book that I just published. It's called Discover and Use Your Greatest Superpower:
I love it.
Metaphysics, Spirituality, and Bubblegum.
Great
I
title.
threw in the word bubblegum there, Sandy, because it's like when you're chewing bubblegum, you're thinking nothing of it, right? It's not the left brain at all. It's just relaxing into this new operating system of the consciousness that will really help us create the reality that we want.
I
And
love it.
hopefully, I wish everybody the gift of empowerment and have fun exploring each one of yourselves.
Love it. Thank you so much for joining me today,
Thank you
Carina. I really
too.
appreciate it. And to everybody listening, I hope that you and your family are happy and healthy and that your lives are filled with peace, joy, and happiness. And take care, everyone.
Take care.